Hey, this is Andy Brown, and we are taking a look at AWS Lambda. So, AWS Lambda is a serverless function as a service that lets you run code without provisioning or managing servers. I just want to make extra emphasis here about how Lambda is serverless and it is a function as a service. Just because something's a function as a service doesn't automatically make it serverless. It just happens to be that AWS's offering is that, okay? Lambda executes your code only when needed and scales automatically to a few thousand Lambda functions concurrently in seconds. You pay for the compute time you consume. There is no charge when your code is not running. I have an asterisk there because AWS Lambda throughout the years have added additional functionality where it will continuously run to avoid cold starts. But generally, you're not charged if your code's not running, okay? AWS Lambda supports multiple runtimes. We got Ruby, Python, Java, Go, PowerShell, Node.js, C Sharp, Rust, or create your own custom environment. For Go and Rust, it's a little bit questionable because you're really just building a binary and placing them on there. But these are the common languages you can use. You can definitely use more than just this. Let's look at a couple use cases for Lambda. But Lambda can often be used to glue different services together. An example would be processing thumbnails. So the idea is that you have a file you put into an S3 bucket that triggers a Lambda, passes the image along, you process it, you place it back into a bucket. Another thing you can do is utilize it as a contact form. So you have a website, you submit a request over to API Gateway. API Gateway points to a Lambda. The Lambda processes it and will insert it into a DynamoDB database and then send an SNS notification saying that an email has been received, so you better go take a look at it. When you use AWS Lambda via the AWS Management Console, they have an interface, so you can definitely just utilize that if you want. This is actually Cloud 9 underneath. You choose your runtime, you upload your code, you choose your triggers, your destinations. You will have to configure your IAM role for permissions to send to stuff or get stuff from other places, so understand that. We have a lot of different kinds of triggers. So triggers is stuff that can cause a Lambda to execute, and as well as passing along data. This is definitely not the full list. It works for third parties as well, specifically through EventBridge, so that is great. We have destinations. So destinations, we'll learn about this later on, but we have this idea of between sync invocations and async invocations. When Lambda first came out, it was just synchronous invocations, which was the idea was that you would invoke a Lambda and it would immediately return a response, generally HTTP response, because usually you'd be using API Gateway with it. But now we have this idea of async invocations, where the data is immediately returned to an async AWS service. So the idea is here we could have SNS, SQS, Lambda function, EventBridge bus. So these are all services that are messaging systems or event-driven systems. And you can have a destination to occur, whether there is a successful execution or a failed execution. We'll cover this again when we talk more about sync versus async. In terms of how you can tune your Lambda, you have the option to change the timeout between 1 second and 15 minutes. You have options to change the storage, which when I first used this, there was never this option to change storage. So now you can, up to 10 gigabytes. Of course, it'll get more expensive if you add more. And then you have memory. So the 128 is the default and the lowest, and you can go up to 10 gigabytes. So there you go.